Yo YouTube! This is my video for Wednesday the 6th of August, and you find your hero in good spirits this morning for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to ramble on specifically about why at this particular point. I may do it later on today or in the future, but specifically at the moment I'm on my way to a job in Sleaford. It is a small van job going 93.5 miles down to Milton Keynes, and I have got this job for £90, 90, which I think is a very good start to my day. Gets me to a decent area, and I'm hopeful to have a good day today. One of the reasons why I am cheerful is that in my last video I think I mentioned about specifically trying to get up early and sort of I didn't say this, but seize the day rather than let the day kind of creep up on me in the morning and gradually wake up. And the test for that was yesterday when I wasn't working, because I've realised I'm highly motivated to get up early in the morning when I've got a job to go to. I'm highly unmotivated when I've got no jobs to go to, like on a Tuesday morning. But I decided that I would be the sort of person that gets up early. Now, early's relative, isn't it? For me, 6 o'clock is early. So that's what I mean by early. Wake up at 6, 6:30, get up right straight away. So, yesterday I did do that. I got up at 6:30, got myself ready, and I didn't have a job to go to. So I'm pleased that I managed to do that day. Today the same thing happened. I had nothing booked in, but I got myself out of bed at 6 o'clock, or just after, and I got myself ready. And by 7:50 I'd bid on 4 jobs, and I bid quite high on all of them. I wasn't expecting to get any of them, to be honest. And I got this job at 7:50. I was out of the house by 7:55. So I'll be there in 10 minutes, picking up at just gone 8:30. And so my last sort of point, I will talk at some point probably today about an update on my therapy and how that's sort of having a positive effect on me, for me. But one of the things that I'm going to say at this point is that by me getting up early and being ready for work, it gives me a greater sense of control over my life, and that's the thing that I've realised for many years I feel a lack of and does get me down. So by taking some control actively in decisions that I make that are beneficial for me, I feel that I'm taking control of my life more widely. But I'll talk about that more later. For now, let me get this job done, and I'll let you know how it goes when I'm in Milton Keynes. Cheers! Hi there YouTube. So today's going okay so far. Close these windows. So I dropped off my first load in Milton Keynes at 11:10. I had a slight issue, but not a big one. I'm trying to find the right goods in. It was a large industrial estate sized site, but got there at the end. And then I came off site, had a look at all the jobs that were around locally. There was actually quite a lot I could bid on. I probably put about 6 bids on jobs, and then eventually, just a moment ago, it's now just gone 11:45. So about half an hour or so after I stopped, I got a job which is picking up from Rushden, which is 45 minutes away, 33 miles, going to Manchester. It's a car job, stroke, it can be done in a bike, and I'm getting £120, 120, for 147.5 loaded miles. From what I know from the phone call, it's just a small part that's for a repair of some sort, so it's obviously pretty urgent. And I'm on my way to the pickup now, so it's going to be It's a nice little bit of money. That puts me on 210 for the day when I arrive in Manchester. And I just need to get something small heading somewhere towards the east when I get there. Or maybe even something big. Last time I was in Manchester I got a big job, didn't I? So maybe it'll be another stonking big day, which I'll be quite pleased about. And actually no, let me assume that I'm going to look for a big job coming back from Manchester and make today an amazingly good paying day. There you go. So I'll let you know, and it's all is good in Delivery Man world. Cheers. I'm about 25 minutes away from my pickup in Rushden, and so I thought I'd try to explain a bit more about how my talking therapy has helped this year. I don't quite know how this is going to go, so it may not end up on a finished video. It's going to be a genuine ramble about the thoughts that go through my head, and then we'll see if it has a coherence at the end. And before I start talking about the present, I want to just give you a brief, broad, vague history about how I see myself as a person. When I was growing up as a kid, I had quite a tough time. It's all relative, of course, but I had quite a tough time as a kid growing up, and that led to sort of internal traumas which I didn't deal with until very late on in life. I haven't really fully dealt with them now, to be honest. Before I dwell too much on that, they're not that bad, but everyone says that, don't they? Your own childhood traumas are your own childhood traumas. You shouldn't try and compare them to other people's experiences. They are what they are for yourself. I'm not going to steer clear of the word traumas, but it might mislead some people to thinking it was a lot worse than it really was. But it was important, and it was lifelong lasting from the effects it had on me, my upbringing. Anyway, I enjoyed school. I was quite good at school, so I worked hard and I did well at school. It worked for me as an escape from home. And I always knew I was going to go to university because that was the natural next step. And that, for me, university was very much about getting away from the home environment and becoming an independent adult. And that worked very well for me doing that. I left university, met my wife there. We had a family. We grew oldish together, and we brought up a family, and we sort of did all the normal things that a family does. But I never felt particularly satisfied with myself as a person. I always felt I didn't have much control over my decisions and my life, and I always felt dissatisfied with where I was and where I was going to. And that never really left me. Despite, objectively having some successes in my life, there was always part of me saying you're not good enough or you need to be better. And I don't think that's unusual. I think it's probably quite common. It's not something I dealt with though for a very long time. So I lived most of my life not really being particularly at ease with myself. And where am I now? So now my life is very different to what I thought it was going to be. I've been going to therapy for almost a year now, and I feel that I'm in a much better place, and I want to talk a bit about that. So I did therapy about 8 to 10 years ago for the first time and found it very useful, and then sort of stopped doing it and got on with my life. And this time I gave myself a couple of rules that I wasn't going to do this time with this therapy that I had done before. The first was not to care about the cost of it, not to use the fact that I'm paying for it as an excuse or a barrier to starting or for a reason to stop. I had to accept that it was the cost of having help. I needed help. It was the cost of having help, and I was going to pay whatever it took, because I could see the value in it from
just common sense and my previous experience, and see people around me. The second thing I did was I didn't give myself a time limit. I just said I'll go to therapy until I feel it's not working anymore. So that could be 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 3 months, a year, longer. And probably the final point that I did is I didn't come to therapy with a hard and fast set of problems to solve. I did have a list of items I wanted to cover, but they weren't things I was going to cover necessarily all in one go or at the start. I was prepared. I knew vaguely what was the problem, but I didn't preempt anything. Now, some sessions at the start were I was talking about something specifically, trying to resolve it. So some of it was like that, but what I found over time was that the better way for me was to approach therapy like an open conversation without an agenda. And so what I do now is I commit to turning up every week for the hour to have a conversation, but I don't usually know before I walk into the door, or even when I walk in the door, what I'm going to talk about. And then what I do is I allow my mind I just express what comes into my mind without any kind of caveats or explanations, or without any kind of blocking of thoughts. Whatever I think about, I just say it. I say it in a way that's coherent and sort of makes some sense. So I do kind of process to some extent what I'm going to say, just so I can communicate it more clearly. But effectively, I end up having a session where I just let my thoughts run wild. And that's, I think, the benefit of having a therapist or a therapy appointment. You don't need to try and pretend to be something you're not. I can just be exactly who I am. Whether I like that or not, I'm just going to do that. I'll just be who I am. And over time, the therapist has got to know me a bit better. I've got to know them a bit better. I don't mean personally, I mean in terms of how we respond and how we work. And it works well for me having this particular therapist, and I really enjoy and I look forward to going. But I don't worry about what I'm going to talk about. And over the last few months, I've talked quite a lot about my autistic brain and how that feels and how it affects me. That's helped me express that. I've talked a little bit about my YouTube channel, but not a lot. But it does come up. I've talked a lot about my emotions and about how I can deal with my emotions. And I haven't solved all the traumas. The other thing I wanted to say is, I do feel a lot better, but there's nothing that I know now, as in a piece of information, that I didn't know 10 years ago. It's not about me finding out new things. Because there's a lot of self-help, there's a lot of, therapeutic guidance, there's lots of sort of mindfulness, which is really the sort of things that helps people in the public domain. It's not a lack of knowledge. My sort of peacefulness, peace of mind, my acceptance of myself is not to do with knowing more or less about myself. It's more about a process of allowing me to be myself in that environment, and accepting, that's all right, I don't mind that person, I like that person, and allowing the thoughts that are sort of obtrusive or negative just to take a back seat for a bit. I would compare it to my knowledge of losing weight. I've always known how not to gain weight and how to lose weight. We all know how to lose weight if we're too fat, and we all know how to gain weight if we're too thin. It's not a lack of knowledge in this country. It really is, in my mind, at least for me at least, it really is about not having the right mindset, not having the right tools in your mind to implement the right actions. And so what the therapy does for me is it gives me access to ways of thinking and ways of dealing with my mind that are more constructive and more helpful, which then allows me to do the right things in real life. I'll give you a specific example which I've talked about before, but I am doing it now. I've always known, right from the start of my YouTube channel, that if you get up early in this job, you get an early job, you've got a great chance of making a pretty decent income for the day. Because you can get an early start in, get that first job done quickly, get some money on the board, and then you're in a good place to work. I've always known that as a piece of knowledge, but I've never really been quite in the right place in terms of my mind, for a better word, to implement that. And I know that for me, little things just click into place when I'm in the right frame of mind. So I can give you an example here. I mentioned Paul Glibbery's videos. He mentions a lot in his videos that he gets up early, takes his wife to work, and he's ready to do work. And he gets a lot of jobs in his area from sort of 7 o'clock onwards. Now I'm usually still in bed at that time, and I thought, I've heard that, I get that, I know that, but because I'm now in the right sort of place to sort of think, well, why shouldn't I do that then? And I couldn't come up with an answer. Well, you should do that. That is the right thing to do. So I'm in the right place to implement that now. So this week I've done that. I've woken up at 6 o'clock. I've started getting myself ready to get out of bed straight away, and I've been ready to work from about 7:30 onwards. And today and Monday I had a job booked in already, but today I think that has worked because I got an early job, and it just feels like I'm in control. I'm going to emphasise that word because I know for me, my problem with my self-image is a lack of control, a feeling I don't control how I can talk, my body, my decisions, my future. But this is an example where I've deliberately taken control of when I wake up. Now it's not nice in the mornings, I don't like it, I do feel uncomfortable, which I talked about in another video, but I get through it. I use some tactics like music, I shave, I wash my face, but I find a way in which I can implement the thing that I want to do. And I'm not trying to say, because I know there's a lot of an audience there that won't get any of this, I'm not trying to say you should do this because this works for me. I'm not talking about you in this case, I'm only talking about me and how I respond to therapy and being a better person. So therapy has allowed me to think about myself in a better way. I think about myself as being, I want to be a bit better tomorrow than I am today, and today I want to be a bit better today than I was yesterday. But I've always thought that, but in the past that's been a frustration and I've been unable to do it because of my mindset. But now I'm just doing it. I'm thinking about how to be better tomorrow, and I'm just doing the thing. It's a tiny little thing, tiny improvements every day would lead to where I want to get to. And I want to give you I'm getting quite excited with this because there's a lot in my head that I've realised through therapy, that I've said in therapy, that I want to tell you. But I know this is the wrong context because a lot of you don't get what I'm talking about. But for those that do understand, I'm going to end on this one point. When I was younger, I kept saying to myself, I want to achieve my potential. That meant for me, I was getting more responsibility, to get a better paid job, to afford a bigger house. And I was always living for this future bright sky moment that would happen. And in the last week or so, I've realised, what does living to my full potential mean? It actually means what I said a moment ago. It means just doing the best I can every single day. And I can do that today. I did that yesterday, and I'll do it tomorrow. So actually, rather than me now being frustrated that I can't achieve my full potential, I now genuinely believe I am achieving my full potential right now. because I'm being a bit better every day. Now, I hope that makes sense on the face of it, that what I've said makes sense to you, but can you understand a 53-year-old getting to the point where the one thing that's always made them negative or down has just been solved? I've just solved the one thing that's always kept me pressed down in the ground, which is all from my own mind. It's not other people. No one else has done this to me, not even my parents. It's all about me and my mind and how I have not dealt with my emotions and my traumas. But because I use talking therapy, which works for me amazingly, I can start to then do what I want to do, which is take control of my life and make myself feel better and therefore be better. And I've realised this week, just keep doing this. It's not bad to have goals, but it's not the goals that are important. It genuinely is. This is a phrase I always knew but couldn't work out what it meant for me. It is the journey, not the destination. I'm on a journey of being a better person every day, and that's what matters, not where I end up. I'm being a little bit more passionate than usual because I feel that passion. I feel excited. I'm not someone that gets excited very often. I'm really overweight. I've got some health issues still. I don't earn enough money. I've got, I could dwell on the negatives, but that's not who I am anymore, I don't think. The danger is that this is a passing phase that goes, and the first sort of thing that goes wrong, I fall back to my old habits. So it's a bit like being an addict to being down. I need to make sure I keep working on it, but if I keep working on it, I know this works for me. And again, I'm trying to reiterate because I want to make it really clear. I'm not trying to say this works for you, it is the same as for you, you've got the same issues as me. Obviously you haven't. You've got your own experiences, background, your own emotions, your own skills. So I'm not trying to teach anyone else what they should do. I'm just sharing with joy my progress. And to be fair, I've got to say, having a YouTube channel has really helped. And I would never have thought that would be one of the positives about having this channel. So if you've been watching every one of my videos, you would have seen this coming in my last few videos. I've been a bit more cheerful, I've been a bit more verbose with my kind of emotions. And this is sort of trying to explain why I'm there in a bit more detail. There's more I can say, but I won't go on about it right now. I'm only 6 minutes away from my pickup, so I'll do that now. But it's a lovely day in all senses of the word, and all I hope for you is that you can feel something similar yourselves. However it works for you, whatever success means for you, whatever breakthroughs are you need to do, I hope you make them as well. Whatever age you are, whatever gender you are, whatever background you have. I'll see you later. Right, here we go. I have arrived at the address in CX, and then I was told by the people there that was an office block and that I needed to go to a different address, the warehouse, which is 8 miles away. And it's 8 miles back the way that I've already come. So I probably came past the actual correct pickup point about 10-15 minutes ago. So I'm going to get there quite late with quite a lot of extra mileage over what it should be. But I've let the shipper know it's going to add on a bit of money, and I'm not going to be too fussed about it. My explanation for this, from what I can work out, is that the shipper who gave me the job is on the road, probably just a driver shipper doing his own work, and he was probably told that this job dropped today, and I'm guessing, like as in now, and I'm guessing that he's just misread something and put on the head office address for the collection rather than the warehouse address. These mistakes can be made really easily. I'm not going to worry about it. In my mind, I've got a a reason as to why it's happened. So just got to get on with it now. And hopefully when I get, I'm going to be at the actual pickup point half an hour later than what the customer might expect. But I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue. I'll just head straight to Stockport then. Unfortunately, if there's an engineer waiting for this part, it's going to have to wait a bit longer, but at least he'll get it today. Right, I'll let you know how my day goes later. Cheers. I knew I'd forgotten something from my therapy talk. I was talking about how sometimes the time is right for me to accept the right way to do things. I was talking about Paul Glibbery's videos, but at the same time as that, at the same time as therapy, at the same time as a lot of other things, I also re-engaged with it's a podcast, but it's basically a radio program. It's Ellis James and John Robbins' Radio 5 live show, which I always used to enjoy listening to, but I haven't been listening to it for a long time. And there's two parts about that program which really appeals to me and really suits me. And again, it won't suit everyone. The first thing is, it's one of the very few things that reliably makes me laugh out loud. Every episode, I'll be laughing literally out loud to myself in my van, listening to something, and sometimes quite uncontrollably. So it's joyful and it's funny, but it's also, it is honest and meaningful, and it does talk about hard stuff sometimes. And it doesn't shy away from trying to be honest about, having bad days or good days, or how one feels about things. So there's a combination there of what I would call the opposite of toxic masculinity, whatever that is, positive masculinity, and humour. And that combination just works so well for me. It inspires me just to be a bit of a better person myself. So it's not just about one thing being different now. It's about a whole range of things all coming to place at the same time, which allows me to be be able to enact the right behaviours. Right, YouTube, finally a tactic of mine has worked. So do you remember way back when I mentioned about making a joke out of a mistake that I'd made with a shipper? In fact, that was this morning. And I was hoping they'd remember me and maybe give me work directly. Well, they've just called me out of the blue and offered me a job for tomorrow, which I have gratefully accepted. Going from Sleaford, I think it was good to Bolton or Blackburn. So I'm doing it for about £1 a mile, and I'm very happy to do it. So that, I would say, is a non-CX job. They've called me directly, and I'm really pleased that I was able to sort of get someone's attention in a positive way. So, well done me. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow. Right, last video with my stats for today. I'll round off what happened at the end of my day. So I was offloaded it was Stockport in the end, around about 20 past 4, and I moved myself from where I was to the nearest supermarket, and I sat there looking for work. And I had contacted a company outside of CX, who then did offer me a job, but it wasn't picking up until 7 o'clock. And we couldn't quite agree on the amount of money. We were very close. I wanted 110, they wanted to pay 87. They then said 100, and I said I'd do 105. Now, the reason why I didn't go down to the 100 is because it was a 7 o'clock pickup, which would have been a drop-off in Grimsby, so it's Bury to Grimsby, about 9 o'clock in Grimsby, and then about 10:30ish for me to get home. So for the sake of the £100, I had quite a long day, and I felt that at 4:30 when this happened, I had a reasonable chance of getting another job straight away. So I chose to not go for that job, and then it went on CX, and obviously got sold. My view was to just try and find any sort of job. There's a couple of things that I did bid on that were distance jobs. I think I bid on a couple of London jobs, Manchester to London, and I didn't get those jobs. And so by 5:15, I decided to start to drive home and look for work on the way back. And there wasn't really very much. There was a couple of jobs on the way back that I bid on but didn't get. And then the last sort of job was a job from Nottingham to south of Derby. And if I'd done that, it was about an hour for me to get to the pickup, although it was in the right direction. And then probably about 40 minutes to do the job, and then about an hour and a half to get home. And at that point, it was only an hour and a quarter from home anyway. So again, it was quite a small job. I didn't think it was worth it. So I've basically decided to call it quits. I'm okay with the amount of money for today, and here are my stats. I'm going to end up being at home just before 8:30, and this is what I've managed to make today. So I filled up the fuel today, and my new average fuel price for this week is 13.49 pence per mile. I've driven a total of 492 miles, 492, and by the time I've got home, I will have worked for 12 and a half hours from start to finish. I've made £220 from 2 CX jobs. The first job was £90. The second job was originally £120. I got an extra tenner for the confusion at the start. 130 in the end. For fuel, I've spent £66.37. So I round that down to £66. For the next bit, my net earnings today after fuel come to £154, 154. So that goes into my pot for my income for this week, and I've got Thursday and Friday to add to that pot as much as possible. Just to give you some context, last week my income was £127, 127. So I've already made more this week than I did last week, but I want to try and make enough extra this week to make both weeks reasonable. So 2 more days to go. Oh, I have got a job for tomorrow, which I told you about, didn't I, previously? It's a non-CX job. I just called about it. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. It's an early start again, but that's kind of the new me, isn't it? He says. So yeah, so that's my video for today. Thank you very much for listening to my video. I hope that you are being successful. I'll see you again tomorrow. Farewell, friends.